Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of November 6th to November 12th. However, before we get into the week ahead and before we do any kind of recap of the week behind us, I have an announcement to make. Now, for those that have listened to my prior episodes and listened all the way to the closing parts of those episodes, I said then that I was going to have something that I wanted to announce, that I wanted to make sure that I was going to have certain things lined out before I did it. But I know not everybody listens to the closing part, so I'm going to put this part in the intro. We're going into uncharted territory, and that includes me. We're all going to be able to do something and be doing something we've never done before, and that includes me. So I'm going to take the lead on this with this wonderful announcement. Guys, I'm running a special. I've never been able to run a special before, but I've had multiple people over the last few months, well, last few weeks, especially during eclipse season, messaging me asking about having a reading done. And I have specifically said for right now, just go watch the podcast. Watch these episodes because I wanted people to get familiar with the way that I read before I did a reading for them. I cuss, I make jokes. I'm a real person. I'm going to talk to you like you're a real person. So I plan on doing a special for the very first time ever on all of my natal chart readings. Now, when I do a natal chart reading, I do it just like this. It is recorded. It is audio and visual. But as opposed to like doing the weekly forecast where I'm doing, what's going through on Monday through Friday, 24/7, it's going to be about you. Babies, it's about your big three. It's about how the eclipse axis is going to be affecting you. It goes over the themes of this year based off of the age and the planets that are ruling each of your perfection years as you go through them. That is stuff that I will explain in my readings whenever I do them for you. It's all about you. Now, I'm doing this special in tiers. There will be 2 tiers. The first tier is that basic chart reading that I just described. You get a private visual link that you will be able to hear and take notes and see and hear my intuitive breakdown as to what I see going on for you in your chart. However, I know some people that they want more than that. And they want to be able to ask some questions and have some Q&A time with me afterwards. And the second tier of the special that I'll be running is going to be people that want a chart reading with a Q&A time. Now, the chart reading I do completely pre-recorded. You will get a private link that you can view as many times as you need to. And after you've had time to process what I've said in your reading, then we'll do the Q&A setup. And that I will be doing one-on-one through Zooms. If you want to just do a chart reading, that's going to be $25. If you want the second tier package of having a chart reading and a 30-minute one-on-one Q&A time with me, that's going to be $50. And I will be running this special all the way until the end of November. Adding a layer to that. We all know somebody in our lives that they have wanted a chart reading, but they've never pulled the trigger. If you know somebody like that, send them this episode and tell them to watch the intro. If somebody that already listens to me has sent you this intro, buckle up, babies, and listen up. You probably haven't seen one of my episodes before, and that's fine. Watch the rest of this episode and get a feel for how I break things down. Because whenever I do this energetically in a whole real world perspective, not putting one single sign into it, yet you'll still see accuracy. Now imagine what it's like whenever I'm looking at your actual natal chart. It gets a lot more intense. Just to be clear. Message me through WhatsApp, message me through Instagram, message me through Facebook, whichever one you are comfortable with. I will link my WhatsApp, I think I could do that, in the description. I will link the pages to Spiritually Bougie Astrology on Instagram and Facebook in the description. You can message me directly through those. And then I'm going to want to add one extra layer to this because I know a lot of you that you know somebody that needs this, but even by sending them this link, they're not going to pull the trigger on their own. It is what it is. We all know somebody in our life that they say they want it, it's a great idea, but then they never actually freaking do anything about it. I got one for that too. And another thing that I will be doing, and this will be a very limited amount, I won't actually do this as an unlimited thing. So just to be clear, I'm going to cap this at 50. I will also be doing gift certificates. So if you know somebody that you would like to gift them a chart reading, we're getting closer to the holidays, so this is going to be like a spiritually bougie Black Friday sale month. We can do a gift certificate. It will be a numbered gift certificate. I will require certain information up front, not the birth chart info per se, but I will require some information so I know who you're gifting them to. So later on, whenever they get in contact with me, I have their name on a list. And I can make sure we don't have any issues with scammy McScammer scams, because you know how that stuff goes. I'm not going to run this through any type of like software or third-party program. Everything that I'll be doing, I will be taking care of. I will have the spreadsheets. I'm the one that creates everything, and I will be the one creating the gift certificates. That way, anyone in your life that you know that would benefit from this, but you know they will never pull the trigger on their own, you can do it for them. And then it's all on them just to make the call. Send me the message, send me an email, whatever works. On each one of the gift certificates, I will have directions on how that person can get a hold of me, again, to make it as easy and clean as possible. We're going into a really good week. There's a lot of momentum to this week. Many of us have had something over the last week that revealed itself. A decision that was made, a communication that finally occurred, an energetic barrier between two people fell away. Between you and another situation fell away. An opportunity finally came through, and that was the energetic barrier that fell away. Now, if you listen to the prior episodes, I made the example of like that energetic barrier was leading to one of two things. Either a final lie or deception, a final layer or round to a previous deception, or a new one just all the way through came through. And then as soon as you are called on your shit, or you called them on their shit, depending on how it unfolded, as soon as that happened, automatically new barriers went up. For other people, though, the energetic barrier was something that fell away, because then an olive branch was extended. A job offer, reconnecting with an old friend, reconnecting with an old lover, and reconnecting with an old loved one. In the prior episodes, I made the example of like Joe and Sue getting back together, because I always make fun of people named Joe and Sue. Just get over it. These are my names. And I talk with my hands. But there was an energy of people coming back together, of a uniting, of a reconnection. And once we were able to bridge over the troubled waters and we were able to create this reconnection, other things fell away. Little bits of the story that we didn't know came through. Some of the missing parts of what was going on before, we overcome and we broke through. And a big portion of where we go this week is very much carrying from the energy of the prior week. Some of us have made the decision to start something anew. We are either taking something we've been working on our own situations. We've been working on it for quite some time, diligently doing everything that we need to do. And now we're ready to take it to the next level. And that next level starts this week. For some people, we have just bridged some level of communication with another person. And the renewal process is this week. For some people, it's a whole new beginning. Because we tried to start something once already. We tried to do something. And for a lot of us, it was earlier this year. We were trying to do something back in January, February, and March, especially March. But we were doing it with the wrong people. We did it with the wrong situation in mind. We did it without having all of the knowledge that we needed. Something wasn't right. We either did this start with the wrong teammates, or we had the right teammates, but it was the wrong topic, the wrong product, the wrong something. And now we're starting over. But whether we're starting something brand new, leveling something up in some way, or rebuilding some type of bridge over troubled waters in our communication process, whatever process we're in, no matter what, all of us in some way, shape, or form are at ground zero. And that is really spoken by the fact that Saturn turned direct at 0 degrees of Pisces. It is time to shift our responsibilities. It is time to shift our roles. Many of us are bridging into our new roles within our family, within society, within the company. We're taking on a new part of the hierarchy. Some of us have been waiting for somebody else to get out of the way. Bob finally retired. Now we can finally fill this position with somebody that knows how to use a printer. We've all been in that situation at least once. And we're bridging into something new this week. And a big portion of this week is still a part of the start over. It is still a part of the bridging. But when we were going through parts of the weekend, we were trying to wrap our heads around it. We were trying to get some understandings. And some of us, we either felt like we needed to do something productive to get the weight off of our head, to overcome a fear, or some of us were feeling very, very prideful and happy and hopeful. It really just kind of depends. Were you on the Saturn side of things, or were you on the moon side of things? The moon was going through Leo. And actually, when we start Monday, the moon is still going to be in Leo. So some of the things that we get into when we get into Monday morning are a carryover from the energy that was unfolding this weekend and last week. And as we get into parts of this week, there is going to be a momentum that slowly starts to build. There's going to be an excitement that is in the air all week, and it is taking us to something that is going to perfect in one way this coming weekend, an excitement that will happen this coming weekend that will also set the stage for what happens all of next week. We're building towards something. There's a hopefulness in the air. The first part of this week is about strategy. It is about creating order. It is about putting something into order and making sure where we go next that we have all the things in place that's necessary for them. Many of us know we're finalizing something in one way despite someone else. We're working through something in a very specific way to get something rolling in a new direction, to again push for more of that turnaround, to push people that are supposed to be responsible for things to understand their responsibilities in a lot of ways. Not always, but a lot of ways. So let's get into Monday, and hopefully my system does what it's supposed to do. I've been having issues with it today. Are we going to do? We did it! At least it says on my end. Hopefully everything. Yeah. Anyways, Monday. We're getting into Monday. It is November 6th. I have it at 6:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. Monday has a busyness to it. Monday has both internal energies and external energies that are going to come through. We have some questions that are being had, and this comes through based off of the transit that happened overnight. So I want to be clear about this. I do not have this at the very first transit because the first transit starts around midnight. So in the overnight hours of Sunday going into Monday, the moon in Leo makes a square to Mercury. Now, some of us are going to be up late Sunday night talking about recent announcements or putting out a recent announcement, putting out something that's a plan for the future, putting out something that we're going to be working on literally at least these next few days. Because as soon as the moon leaves its square to Mercury, the moon is going to go void. And then Monday afternoon, the moon is going to go into Virgo. The moon is going to go into Mercury's sign. So there is a busyness that's going to come through in waves. Some of us, we're going to feel busyness first thing in the morning. Some of us are going to be dealing with things all throughout the day. But a lot of our focus in the first part of the week is Mercury. Now, for those that have listened to me for quite some time, I'm going to remind everybody about how parts of this summer have went. Mars ruled the last eclipse season, not the one that we're wrapping up right now, but the one that we had earlier this year, the shit show eclipse season that happened in April and May. Mars ruled it, and Mars was making space in Cancer and ruffling up everybody's emotions. And then Mars went into Leo. And Mars made space for Venus and everything Venus was about to do in Leo. And all of the shit show energy of this summer, I blame it on Venus. I really do. I totally blame it on Venus. But that's okay. Venus is going to finally get some redemption this week, so there's that. Mars made way for Venus, and Venus turned retrograde. Mars went into Virgo. Mars made way for Mercury. Mercury tried to catch up, and then Mercury turned retrograde in Virgo. Mars switched signs again. It went into Libra, and Mars basically was making space for the sun. And we became very, very aware of things we needed to let go of, get rid of, and overcome to create balance. Then Mars went into Scorpio, and everything that Mars has been doing since going into Scorpio has been activating energies tied to all of the eclipse axis points that tied back to when the South Node was going through Scorpio and the North Node was going through Taurus. Because Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, was going into its sign for the very first time in in a year and a half. Once Mars went into Scorpio, we also started having the very first conjunctions for the first time in 14 months. And you're going to hear me reference that time span more than once this time. Mars went into Scorpio, and during our last eclipse, the full moon eclipse that happened in Taurus, that happened back on October 28th, that weekend, October 28th, October 29th, Mars had its very first planetary conjunction, and it was to Mercury. And since then, Mars and Mercury have traded spots a little bit. Mars is no longer charging ahead and making way for everything else. It's not headstrong energy. There's a strategy. We're very cautious and careful with what we're saying right now. Mercury is the one that's in the forefront. A big portion of the energy that takes over the first part of the week is going to be very, very focused on our book of business, on the orders, on the documentation, on the plans of action. We are moving towards something that's going to start to unfold this week, and that will be a momentum and an energy that takes us all throughout the rest of the month. There's an order that needs to be involved based off of Mercury's energy. In the early parts of the in the early parts of the day, the moon will hit that square to Mercury, and then the moon is going to go void. So some of us are going to feel like we really need to put something in order. We really need to focus on something, that we really need to be doing something, but we might struggle a little bit to get that order in place. Now, even though the moon is going to be void, we still have other transits that will be going on. And one of those, in the early morning hours, is between Venus and Pluto. Now, this will go exact between 8:21 a.m. and 8:42 a.m. Central Standard Time. I now have this at 8:15. You can pretty well see it. Venus is at 28 degrees and 2 minutes. Pluto, 28 degrees and 3 minutes. This is a trine. For those that aren't familiar with this, trines or triangles, this is only a connection that can happen between the same elements: earth, 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 air, 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 water, 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 fire, fire, fire. This is an earth trine. We have one part of the triangle. Venus is in a trine to Pluto. We have something we're trying to understand. We're having something that we're trying to put in order. We are trying to understand the ins and outs of something that's been going on below the surface, and bring it to light. In many ways, we're trying to heal from something. That energy comes through in more than one way as we get through the rest of this week. We are trying to heal and overcome some things. In that immediate moment, we might not necessarily know how to overcome anything because the moon will be void. But that does not mean that the order of what we need to do next isn't necessary. Many of us are very, very aware we need to put something into order because it immediately leads into what we're doing next. We have to tinker with something in some way because it immediately leads to where we're going next. We have to finalize these reports because these reports are part of a presentation that happens next. Is it happening first thing on Monday? No. But are we aware we have shit to do when we get to Monday? Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Now, the Venus trine Pluto energy, we're building to it all on the overnight hours going into Monday morning. It goes the most exact Monday morning, but we will also be dealing with it and feeling it as the day progresses. This is just letting you know when it happens the most exact. The other thing that's happening on Monday and will really start to come through after the moon goes into Virgo. So let's keep bumping this forward because the moon goes into Virgo at 1:39 p.m. So here's 2:15. The moon is in Virgo. And immediately upon going into Virgo, what does the moon do? It enters in opposition to Saturn. Saturn, who's in Pisces. Saturn, which is newly direct. 48 hours into Saturn being direct. Some of us know we've made a decision over the course of this weekend and we know we need to talk to the boss. Many of us, we've been in a process of turning something around, and you guys have heard me say these examples of somebody leaving their job for quite some time, but the thing is like, not everybody's been doing it at the same time because some of y'all don't like change. Get over it. Some of you finally did get over it this weekend. And the moon hitting this opposition to Saturn speaks volumes to something that we need to be aware of. Now, I want to be really clear about something. We're building towards this square between Mercury and Saturn, but this does not happen until the end of the week. So a good portion of this energy is a momentum of carrying something forward and preparing for something to go a certain way that's not going to happen immediately. We know we're trying to finalize something. Venus is in Mercury sign. Venus is in a trine to Pluto. Pluto's in Saturn sign, but Pluto is also the ruler of Scorpio. It's the modern ruler of Scorpio, and that's where Mercury is. There are layers right now to what Jupiter and Mercury rule in your charts, to mutable energies. There's an awareness that we're going to do something, that we're letting something go, and specifically for a lot of us, that we are going to do something despite another person. There's some pettiness involved. We're putting something in order in a lot of ways to hand off the responsibility, to no longer be a part of a situation. The moon is hitting this opposition to Saturn. Some of us are also waiting for another responsible party to be involved. That's not going to happen until later in the week. And I know that part feels a little confusing. It's just, trust me, parts of where we're going this week will not truly manifest until we get to the end of the week. But the moon is going to hit this opposition to Saturn. The moon is now in Mercury's sign. Mercury is entering a trine to Neptune. And this is perfecting over the course of the evening. So again, a lot of what we're dealing with right now is going to be more focused on this Neptunian energy and Mercury and just what Jupiter rules in your chart, because Jupiter is the rulers of Sagittarius and Pisces, just to be clear. Many of us know we're wrapping something up, or we're putting something in order to allow something else to start. Some of us know that we're in the process of bridging a gap between what used to be our responsibility and what no longer is. So we're preparing certain things knowing that we're going to hand them over. We're doing a final report, knowing that after we do this report that we're pretty well done with this situation. We're doing the final check-in. We're doing the final walkthrough on a house. We're finalizing some documentation. But this is very, very particular in regards to a momentum and a direction for a lot of us and to where we're going. It's not a heavy energy, but it's definitely a busyness, especially whenever it comes to responsibilities and holding somebody accountable. Some of us were talking to somebody about the new things that we're going to start. This turnaround as to what's going on. The moon is in this opposition to Saturn, and Saturn just turned direct. Saturn just turned something around. Some of us, we are the Saturnian person, and we're telling somebody else, okay, moving forward, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. I need you to do these things. Some of us are talking to Saturn, and we're getting their input of how we can fix something. And the fix is probably going to be something that occurs over the next few days while the moon is going through Mercury's sign, and we're building towards the square between Mercury and Saturn that will perfect on Friday. Some of us were hiring a contractor right here. We're hiring an authority figure, moon opposite Saturn. Not an authority figure over us, but if we're in one field, and again, we're talking to somebody who is an authority figure in their role, in their area of life, they're the expert in this area, then we're getting feedback from the expert, so to speak. We're getting told how something is going to work moving forward. Now, we're going to have planets crossover eclipse points this week. And if you haven't seen my meditative rant video where I talked about eclipse activations, you should go back and watch that one. There's one that's getting crossed this week that I did not cover in that last episode. It actually happens on Monday. And that is when Mercury, over the course of the evening, crosses over the May 15th of 2022 eclipse point. That's going to be an interesting energy, but just understand whatever unfolds energetically for a lot of us between Monday and Tuesday based off of Mercury's energy. A lot of the things that unfold for us Monday and Tuesday are going to speak to something that's going to arrive or be a part of the energy come next week during the Mars rebirth. So a lot of this momentum energy is taking us into that. And a lot of this momentum is also taking us into our uncharted territory. And if you understand that moving forward, it's going to make it a lot easier to take these steps forward. Now, it's a lot of mental focus. We have a lot of things that we're trying to put in order. We have a lot of things that we're dealing with on Monday between 7:27 p.m. Central Standard Time and 7:42 p.m. Central Standard Time. Mercury is going to go through a trine with Neptune. This also includes Mercury, the start of Mercury going over that eclipse point. So again, be very aware that some of the conversations that we have on the 6th can be foretelling to something that's going to happen in the future. Now, in the moment, it might not be a foretelling. In a lot of ways, it can be nostalgic in the moment. Some of us were going to be having that nostalgic conversation. Now, think of it this way. Many of us just bridged a gap between ourselves and another person in the last few weeks, and we're in the baby step energy of starting anew, catching up. But if you're talking to your best friend for the first time in 20 years, that was your best friend all through, elementary, middle school, and high school, and you get to this timeline, you're like, do you remember when me, you, and Sammy Boy, remember when all of us, did those things at summer camp? Do you remember when we used to do all that crazy stuff? You remember when we used to do this? Aren't you so glad we didn't have TikTok back then and YouTube back then? I think all of us say that. There's a huge bridge between the adults that did not have internet at their disposal and what people do today. And trust and believe, there's a lot of us that we did stupid stuff in our younger days that we could never get away with today. And we know that. This is that kind of conversation. Mercury is hitting its trine to Neptune. For some people, this is going to be that nostalgic understanding. Hey, do you remember when we used to do that? For other people, it's going to be like, we're hearing about some of the stuff that's unfolded throughout the day, but we don't fully get it. We're not necessarily as tuned into it. We're kind of confused, but at the same time, we're being supportive. So we're just like, that's really great. I don't understand a word you just said. I don't understand macros. I don't understand crypto. I don't understand what you're talking about, but I'm really happy that you're happy. Mars is in the trine to Neptune. It's supportive. It's understanding. Do we understand every single aspect of it? No. But that doesn't mean that we can't be supportive of somebody if we don't know, even if we don't understand their industry. Sometimes you can just be happy for somebody else. Monday's kind of like that. We're happy. We have the ability to be happy. There's not anything super grandiose that says like the worst thing in the world. The only thing that can be heavy for some people is when the moon hits that opposition to Saturn. Because if you've screwed up recently, this right here can be heavy and it can be combative and it can be argumentative. But really and truly, a good portion of this day doesn't have to be argumentative. It's actually meant to be helpful and boastful. It's got a good energy to it. It's got a good vibe. Mercury's trine to Neptune can be a little illusionary, a little creative, a little fun. If you can have fun, enjoy it. Now, after Mercury's trine to Neptune, not a whole lot going on. We start to get into the 7th, we get into Tuesday, and I want everybody to understand with the 7th, this is another one of those days that there's a little bit more of an internal activation than there can be external because the sun is going to cross an eclipse point. This is going to happen in the early parts of the day, so we're just going to get to roughly around 9:15. Yeah. So we got a couple things coming on right at this one point. One, between 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time and 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon in Virgo is going to hit this trine to Jupiter. We are talking about something from the past. We're getting lessons from somebody about how they dealt with something in the past. There's something very, very supportive. Mercury is still in its trine to Neptune, so this can be a continuation energy of some of what was going on before. Some of us were telling somebody else that we got a hold of our old friend. We're talking to somebody about how something went the night before. We're telling some things. But this is all supportive energy. It's helpful. It's meant to bring us forward. Now, the one thing that I will say is that when it gets to Tuesday, this is going to be our last day of Venus in Virgo. And as Venus is in the process of wrapping up her time in Virgo, she is also trying to finalize something. She's in the process of working through final reports. She's putting some final things in order. She is communicating some things. She's traveling somewhere or commuting somewhere for the last time. She's drawing something up for the last time. There is a finality in her energy, but it's not in a negative sense. She's finalizing something for Mercury. She's getting something prepared for what happens next. There's a lot of preparation in this one. It's not a heavy energy at all, considering Mercury is still in that trine to Neptune when Venus is going through that 29-degree mark. We had something from a superior, from an authority figure, telling us how we needed to turn something around, how we needed to transform something, how we needed to put something into an order of some sort. And now we're putting the final touches on that, knowing that after the end of the day or going into the first of tomorrow, that we're going to be turning this in, turning it over, handing it off. It's not a horrible thing. Again, we're picking up a momentum. I like the energy this week, and I like the energy to this part of Tuesday. Now, the moon is going to trine Jupiter early in the morning. Like I said, between 8:30 and 11 a.m. Between 9:48 a.m. and 10:11 a.m., the sun is going to go over the May 5th of 2023 eclipse point. Now, this is the eclipse point that I covered in the meditative rant video. And in that meditative rant video, I explain Mars, Mercury, and the Sun all going over this point. This is happening right after Mercury went over a different eclipse point. So there's a lot of culmination energy of past situations coming to the forefront, coming together, coming to light. For some of us, this is all internal. It's an internal energy of us realizing something, of understanding something, of putting something in motion and putting something together. Something that has been a long time coming. If you are one of the people that you are in the level up energy, you've been doing steady, studious things for months and months and months, and finally you're starting to click something into a higher gear. This is that energy. There's an awareness that we are putting something in motion. Many of us were feeling that vibration, that we've been right on the cusp of something taking off. And we feel something to Tuesday. Do we actually have a physical event going on that makes this tangible to be recognizable? No. But we feel it internally from Monday into Tuesday. We know what we're working on has a bigger, long-term energy to it, and it's a long time coming. Now, later in the evening, between 7:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon in Virgo is going to make a sextile to the sun. Now, trines are helpful, are usually helpful energy. So are sextiles. Sextiles are of the nature of Venus, and Venus is about to change signs. Some of us know we were finalizing a report that we're going to give to somebody else. Some of us know we're waiting to get a report from somebody else, that they're doing the final touches on something and that everything's going to arrive. Something is going to pop off. Something is going to happen. That we're going to be trying to decipher and understand something come Wednesday. The moon in this sextile to the sun is kind of in that energy. It's not heavy. It's not harmful. It's not hurtful. It's meant to be helpful. It is an intention. You receive something from the moon knowing that you're not going to deal with it at 10 o'clock at night. You're not. It's 9:15, close enough for government work. There's just a supportive, thanks for doing this one last time. Thanks for helping me one last time. Thanks for all that you've done. Thank you for this help. That's cool. I'm done. I'm going to do my own thing now. And many of us are very, very aware that we're about to do something different. This is that type of energy. It's not heavy. It's not crazy. But it leads into a lot of the energy going into Wednesday. And I want people to understand, when we get into Wednesday, the vibe is different, but not in a bad way. But it's definitely busier. Now, in the early parts of the morning, so between 2:30 a.m. Central Standard Time and 5 a.m., we're in this right now, I've got November 8th at 4:15, the moon is going to enter a sextile to Mars. In this same time span, Venus is going to enter Libra. It leaves Virgo and enters Libra. Now, I like this. I like Venus going into Libra. I feel so much more confidence about a lot of the energy going on once Venus goes into Libra, because I feel like Venus, for the first time since the last eclipse season, and right now we're in the process of finalizing this eclipse season, is going to instigate a balancing reset. We have a few more days left of eclipse season, and now the ruler of this eclipse, because we had a new moon in Libra, And then we had a full moon in Taurus. Libra is ruled by Venus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. And all during eclipse season, up until this exact time, up until November 8th, I should say it that way, Venus has been in Virgo. Critical, communicative, putting something in order, making something happen. But there's a practical sense, a tangible sense to Venus and Virgo. These final days of eclipse season, starting from the 8th, the practical, critical, documented, communicative, through paperwork, top situations, they change. And the next few days, ending eclipse season, rounding us to the new moon in Scorpio, which doesn't even perfect this week. It perfects first thing Monday morning of next week. All of this energy is rounding us into something that is going to have a lot more communication. And it's the start of something new. And considering we have Venus now in her own sign, it's the start of a reset. We've hit the button a couple of times. We did a hard reset, Control-Alt-Delete. Some of us, we just went and hit the whole power source and just click. Just reset the whole house. Flip all the breakers. I don't care. We're doing a reset. And the energetic reset really starts to be felt and noticed this first part of Wednesday. The moon is in a sextile to Mars. There's a intention here for a later activity, for a later event. The moon is going to sextile Mars, but then later on, it's going to trine Uranus. This is important because of what we're building to. We have an excitement in the air. We know we're moving towards something that's going to feel really fun and really exciting. Some of us were talking about our upcoming plans. Some of us are very, very aware we're starting the next chapter of something. Some of us are not entirely aware of the full reckoning of the responsibilities that are going to be there. We don't know how well it's going to go. We don't know if it's going to take off. Might take a few days to get a better understanding of that. Some of us are very, very aware that what we're starting in this rebalancing is eliminating certain responsibilities, pushing away from certain authority figures, breaking away from certain people. Some of us know that moving into this timeline. Again, we knew we were doing final reports. We knew we were doing something for the last time. And now we're going into something else that is meant to be balancing. But even in this balancing, there is going to be some level of purge that will show up at some point. A release, an overcoming and letting go. But not in the immediate. And that's the good thing. So between 2:30 and 5 a.m., the moon is going to sextile Mars. We talk about a future activity. We're talking about a future intention. And a little bit later, between 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time and 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to trine Uranus. We have Uranus at 21 degrees, 16 minutes in a trine up to the moon. It's just past it. The moon is at 21 degrees and 33 minutes. Unexpected support, unexpected information, unexpected feedback. You just did a final report, didn't necessarily know that you'd actually hear anything, and then you get this unexpected part. Some of us, what we turned in wasn't necessarily a report, it was like a request for vacation time. We don't necessarily know that whenever we didn't expect to get to work the next morning and already have feedback, already have been told yes or no. It was like last minute requests. Can I have this weekend off? And for whatever reason, they approve it. They went ahead and approved that off day and you weren't anticipating it. You get to the office like, oh, approval. Unexpected support. Doesn't have to be heavy. Some of the times whenever it comes to the Uranus moon transits, I've actually been picking up like unexpected like bailouts. That could be this too. But this doesn't feel necessarily like a bailout. I don't feel like people need a bailout in this moment, per se. Now, after the moon's trine with Uranus, much of the day we're building into something else, and we start to bridge into a new area as the day progresses. And where we feel that kind of bridge hit is going to be in the afternoon between 3 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So again, November 8th, we're still on Wednesday. I'm at 4:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, and the moon, still in Virgo, is in its opposition to Neptune. The moon is in Mercury's sign. We started this week with a Mercury trine to Neptune. Now the moon in Mercury's sign is in a trine to Neptune. This does not feel like whole new energy per se. It might be a whole extra person coming into the mix of something that they don't know the full story, but it's not a whole new element. We've already been dealing with something. We're already in a momentum. For a lot of people, this feels like either questioning the current momentum, and if this is a questioning, we'll get answers very quickly. In other ways, this feels like it's the feed off of from where we were at on Monday. Now, while the moon in Mercury's sign is hitting this opposition to Neptune, Mercury itself is entering its sextile with Pluto. Now, we're building to this all day. It actually goes the most exact between 9:30 and midnight. I'm sorry, no, I've got the wrong numbers in front of me. Between 6:06 p.m. and 6:21 p.m. Central Standard Time. Some part of a confusion, so to speak, can lead from earlier events in the week. Some part of this can actually be the next round of questioning about a future action or a future turnaround or a healing process or overcoming a trauma. Some of us can have something revealed to them about a whole other situation. So we have this other thing unfolding, and this is when we finally tell our other best friends from high school that you finally got a hold of Joe. You finally got a hold of Sammy boy. And in some ways we can be talking about, hey, should we get together this weekend? You want to do something? You want to talk? You want to hang out? We're going to have a football party. You want to come over and watch the game? Oh, that would be so much fun. Yeah, sounds like a great idea. Let me talk to my missus and I'll talk to you later. Let me get back to you. Some of us, we got to get back to them. We ain't going to have the immediate answer. But there is something to Wednesday night between 6 p.m. Central Standard Time and midnight that really has a very interesting mental energy to it. Some of what's starting to unfold, some of us were going to be getting downloads during this time. And for those that don't understand me whenever I say downloads, think visions. But not all of us see visions like visions. Some of us hear things a certain way. This can be one of those download moments. We get ideas, we get epiphanies of how we can work through something, how we can manipulate a situation. But when I say manipulate this time, I don't mean it to be negative. Good Lord, I don't mean it to be negative. Some of us can be inspired and have an inspiration. And we need to talk to somebody else about how they would deal with something. And it is over the course of the evening that we get something worked through. So the moon's opposition to Neptune, that again, earlier parts of the day between 3 and 5:30 p.m. And as soon as this opposition is over, is when Mercury and Pluto hit their exact sextile. So we might have something confusing lead us into something else. 6:15, here's Mercury, 28 degrees in 5 minutes, hitting the sextile to Pluto, 28 degrees in 5 minutes. The moon is a full degree past its opposition to Neptune. So we're starting to feel a very big mental, inquisitive energy. A lot of tangible movements going on. about how we can work through something and deal with something. Now, I want to be super clear. Mercury is in a sextile to Pluto. Mercury is in Pluto's sign. Pluto is in Saturn's sign, and by Friday, Mercury is going to hit a square to Saturn. There's a good portion of this week that is a leading up, build up momentum energy that takes us to Friday. This is only Wednesday evening. So some of us are going to be troubleshooting some things Wednesday evening to make sure that they work, that they're doing something a certain way. We got some great idea. Now we're trying to see if we can make it work, because we know if we can make this work, we're going to take it to the boss. We're going to go show him. We're going to go talk to our parents. We're going to go talk to our elders. We're going to go bring something else to an authority figure. Sometimes we troubleshoot something and we find a solution, an unanticipated solution. That can be Wednesday evening. There's a lot of mental energy going on. Some of us are finding ways to fix something by watching YouTube. That can be a good thing and a bad thing. I'm not opposed to it, but it can be both good and bad. But the moon is in a sextile to Pluto. And I'm sorry, the Mercury is in a sextile to Pluto. And as the evening progresses, the moon, this is why I said this earlier, the moon will both trine Pluto and sextile Mercury before it changes signs. There's a very big inquisitive, communicative energy. Venus has just went into Libra. Some of us are trying to figure out what we can do without Venus, because Venus is now going through a reset. We don't have her help anymore. Some of us are trying to bring somebody else into the fold. Some will agree, some won't. But we're very aware that something is different with Venus. Mercury is very aware that he's going to be taking new steps forward. And one of the things that I like in this late part of the 8th and going into the 9th is Venus and Mercury are now entering a sextile. Now, it's not exact. It's actually going to be a continuous energy that takes place all throughout the rest of this month. It literally does not end until November 30th. It'll go exact somewhere in the middle, but it'll be a continuous pattern of energy. And right now, Venus is the one pushing for something that Mercury is going to want. Venus is more in control. As things progress, it'll flip and Mercury will be more in the lead, even with Venus. This is in that energy. This is in that type of momentum. Now, going into the 9th, the moon will, of course, leave its trine with Pluto, leave its sextile with Mercury, and right after 2:08 a.m., so I'm going to get this at 2:15, the moon will go into Libra. The moon will change signs. A lot of us, we're not going to be sleeping Wednesday evening. We're going to be so mentally everywhere, trying to put some things in order. Some of us are very aware that we're physically putting some things in order because there's going to be an arrival in the next few days. Something needs to change. Something needs to work around. We know something's about to hit. We've agreed in some ways for something to happen, but it's not going to happen until Friday. This isn't even Friday. Mercury and Pluto are still in their sextile, and they're going to be separating all day on Thursday. The moon will come into Libra and immediately hit a conjunction to Venus. Now, this goes the most exact between 3 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I've got it at 2:15, but if I bump it, yeah, here's the moon, here's Venus. It's almost completely, it's almost exact, and it's at 4:15 a.m. There is a confirmation, an understanding. There's a weight to some of the upcoming decisions, and we are aware of that. We know there's going to be a pressure that's starting to build. we're in this buildup of this pressure. We know we're getting ready to do something. We're getting ready to present something, that there's going to be something that really starts to take off later this week. And we're feeling the first little rumblings and inklings in the first part of the week. In a lot of ways, we're kind of preparing for that takeoff level of energy. Now, I don't mind Thursday. There's not a whole lot to Thursday. The moon will have this conjunction with Venus. This again happens between 3 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then after that, the moon's not doing a whole lot. The only thing that we really have going on is the fact that this is going to be Mercury's last day in Scorpio. So we're very, very aware that we're doing something for the last time. Some of us, the moon in Venus's conjunction is the start of doing something without somebody else involved, without some looming authority figure, without someone else's interaction, without somebody else at play. Why? Because Venus is in conjunct Saturn. It's in a quincunx. He cannot see what Venus is doing. Venus does not care what Saturn is doing. Now, the one thing I do like is the fact that Libra is the exaltation of Saturn. So there's trust that things are going to go well, even without his guidance, his authority, him looming over. Very disconnected in who's in charge, who's going to be the responsible party, that type of thing. We're very aware that somebody's going to do something for the last time, that somebody else is wrapping something up. But again, this wrap up is going to be like another layer to the earlier in the week wrap up that is going to lead to something that is going to be starting. And as the week progresses, we're getting more and more excited with the energy. We're feeling the buildup. And we know that it's going to have a certain type of energy that's going to follow. Now, again, Mercury and Venus, they're going to start their sextile between the 8th and the 9th. To do a sextile, they need to be within 60 degrees. At this moment, they're at 58. They're 58 degrees apart. This will be a continuous flow of their own energy that will continue all throughout this month. So, we're trying to get something figured out. There is an awareness that we are changing things, that we are starting something anew. And for us to start whatever we're starting, we have to buy something, buy, sell, invest. There can be a monetary aspect going on whenever it comes to Thursday. Anywhere between Monday and Thursday, but the most heightened on Thursday, I feel like. We know we have to unveil a decision or an announcement that leads into this new chapter, a new beginning that we're going to, that leads us into the new uncharted territory situation. For some of us, we understand that we are cutting something off or paying something off. Because again, there is a financial element involved. For some of us, we're very, very, we're driving this car for the last time. We're traveling somewhere for the last time. Our commute is not going to remain the same because our position is changing. The company bought a new location and it's going to be closer to home or further away from home. We know in some way we're altering something and it's not going to be this way anymore. But again, we've known this. So whatever we're leading up to getting into Thursday, like it's not a surprise. We're definitely building up into it. Now, we get into Friday, and I want to be super clear. Mercury enters Sag at 12:25 a.m. Central Standard Time, so just after midnight. And Mercury entering Sag is a very mixed bag of shit, all on its own. As soon as Mercury enters Sag, it enters its detriment. Mercury does not do well in Jupiter's signs. This is Jupiter's sign. As soon as Mercury goes into Sagittarius, it also enters a square to Saturn. Now, the thing I do like about this is a 0-degree square, and we have had multiple transits going through the energy these last few weeks leading up to this moment. So this doesn't feel horrible. Some of us, we are the Saturnian person, and we're going to feel questioned or feel like we're dealing with something from somebody else for the first time. Mercury square to Saturn. For some of us, we're arriving somewhere. We've been in the process of getting ready all week long, and we're finally getting to this point, and boom, here we are. Where do I register? Because there is kind of a register in this energy. There is a buildup of activity. And right as Mercury enters Sag and enters the square to Saturn, which this doesn't actually go exact until around 8:53 to 9:08. So we're going to get to this like 9:15 and leave it alone. Yeah. Mercury, 0 degrees, 33 minutes, squaring Saturn at 0 degrees, 32 minutes. This is an arrival. This is news. This is new communication. This is something that sheds light for authority figures. This is something that is meant to be very, very helpful. We've been going through emotions all week long, and now we're getting to this point. Venus's arrival into Libra allowed for somebody to do a new set of info, new experience. They could give you new information that wasn't connected to what previous people had told you. And now Venus's energy in this sextile to Mercury is allowing for something else to come through, something else that we've been building towards all week. Simultaneously, Mercury in this square to Saturn, we have Mars heightening its opposition to Uranus. Now, this is not going to be exact on Friday. This actually goes exact on Saturday. And many of us know we have something that we're going to be doing next weekend. There's a lot of busyness going into next weekend. And I'll be clear, like this is Veterans Weekend. I have a Veterans Day parade to do. Like I'll be doing it with my Jeep Club. There's a lot of football games, a lot of like competitions, like cheer competitions, wrestling competitions, basketball, all these types of competitions, hockey games. There's going to be a lot of events. And there is going to be a lot of spontaneous energy that is going to come through. This can be a part of the spontaneous energy. But I feel like most of us know we're rounding into something that's going to start picking up momentum all throughout the week. And we get to Friday, and that's whenever something really kicks off. It really starts to take shape. More and more people are talking about it. And this is a 0 degree square. It's the first planetary square to Saturn. And all of the rest of this month is going to be pushing Saturn to start something over again, to do something different, to do something in a new way. This is a push to Saturn. Mercury's had a few days to plan for where it's at, plan for what it's saying. So I like this square. But it is also the start of Mercury in uncharted territory. So it's a mixed bag. Some of us, the excitement is not going to be a fun energy right here. We're going to tell something to the boss and they are not going to like it. We're going to give our 2 weeks notice to the boss and he's going to take it such a wrong way. You are immediately fired. Not going to take it well. Some of you know if your boss is that kind of volatile. Some of you are going to get really surprised in the moment. Expect surprises next weekend. Expect the unexpected next weekend. It's kind of the energy. Okay. After the exact square, there's not a whole lot going on. There's not a lot of moon transits going on. There's really not. We're building to the Mars-Uranus opposition. So some of us are vibrating, like literally vibrating. We're so excited. Some of us were so nervous. We're so nerve-wrecked. And there can be some type of energy tied to the nerve wreck. Some of us were going towards something. We're going to go do something over the weekend. And we're trying to get our things in order to be prepared for the excitement of the weekend. Now, in the overnight hours of the 10th going into the 11th, so Friday going into Saturday, while the moon is in Libra, again, we're not going to be sleeping easily. Our minds are going to be busy. We're trying to put something in order and we're trying to get something going. Mercury's in this opposition to Saturn. We're having a hard time setting still. And the moon is going to hit this conjunction to the south node. A barrier of some sort, energetically, internally, will get triggered. And an energy deep within will get triggered. Something inside of us will come to the surface. And for some people, it's going to happen through dreams. We're going to wake up suddenly being pushed or pulled to communicate something, to face a fear, to do something differently. We're going to feel something very internal. For some people, this is going to be very anxiety ridden. For other people, we're going to feel this need to push to do something suddenly. And if we're in the sudden energy, it's going to manifest somewhere in the earlier parts of the 11th. So let's keep this going. The moon is going to make its conjunction to the south node. It goes exact at 2:49 a.m. So basically, we're feeling that internal click, purge, frustration, anxiety. We feel that internally between 2 and 4 a.m. Central Standard Time. In an outward external manifestation, that is going to perfect between 8 and 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I've got this at 9:15. And at 9:15, we have the moon at 28 degrees entering a square, 90-degree angles, to Pluto. This is a challenge. This is an obstruction. This is something that's very, very infuriating. This is something that's very, very triggering. We already have this exciting vibrational energy going on around us, and now all of a sudden we're hopping in the car because we're going to go drive over to the big college game that's 4-hour drive away. You get into the car and battery's dead. What? Alternator. Something that obstructs and strikes panic, fear, frustration. Some of us are going to get into the Jeep the next morning and something's not working right. We suddenly have the check engine light on. We have something there and it's very triggering. Some of us, our anxiety is taking over. We're going to this big game, this big tournament, this big situation, and we're feeling anxiety because we've never done this before. Now, once you get into the motion and once this day kind of sets into place, that fear will fade away. And for some people, this is only going to be a fear. For some people, the moon square to Pluto is going to be something that actually occurs. I remember the last time, I keep seeing something that's happened back in like January. I remember a specific like moon square Pluto weekend where I knew a lot of vehicles were going to be involved. If your check engine light is on Monday, go get it taken care of on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Don't wait. Just don't wait. Anything that you know going on with the vehicle or something like that ahead of time, don't wait. Get it dealt with ahead of time. This can be frustration. This can be fear-inducing. This can be issues with people in authority and people that are over certain events. We can have a frustration. Given the fact that Mars is in this opposition to Uranus, this adds so many layers to the frustration. Now, the Mars opposition to Uranus goes exact between 3 and 3:30 p.m. The moon is going to be in Libra until 12:40 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I get this at 1:15. You can see the moon just went into Scorpio within the last hour. It's at 0 degrees. As soon as the moon goes into Scorpio, it goes from squaring Pluto and then going void to trining Saturn. By the time we get to the afternoon, some of those frustrations that we were feeling that could have suddenly been triggered, the fear-inducing triggers from the overnight hour going into Saturday, we have a different understanding of them. We're overcoming them. Once we got to the event, it didn't matter that we didn't know where our tickets went. It didn't matter that we've never done this before. We realized that there was a lead to follow. There was something that could be helpful. We understood who was in power, and then by the end of the day, it was like, I'm so glad I was able to do this with you. I'm so glad we did this. It was a lot this morning. I didn't know what was going on. And this happens closer to the Mars-Uranus opposition. Here's the moon, 0 degrees, 18 minutes, and the trine to Saturn. This goes the most exact between 12:30 and 3 p.m. And then between 3 and 3:30 p.m., Mars hits that exact opposition to Uranus. This is interesting to me. It really is. Mars had a retrograde in Gemini all of the last part of 2022, and then the first few months of 2023, Mars was in Gemini. He spent over 8 months there. But the last planetary conjunction that Mars made before it went into Gemini was to Uranus. August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, that time frame, there was a triple conjunction of Uranus, Mars, and the North Node, all in Taurus. And we had some things that occurred right then. Sudden things. It was a sudden get together. It was a sudden discovery. It was an unexpected event, an unexpected call. This is the unexpected call also. We have somebody that finally reaches out. And simultaneous to Mars perfecting its opposition to Uranus, the sun is entering its opposition to Uranus, and this will not perfect until we get to Monday. So Mars's energy here can be disruptive, chaotic disruption, or pivotal disruption. Some of us are having a very exciting weekend, and we get to one part of the weekend, and then again, that check engine light came on. I'll be honest, this is going to be really intense for the sports weekend. Knock on wood. Not knock on wood. And I installed this, I know it's wood. This is a very intense weekend for sporting events. I expect to see sporting injuries. That's not a joke. But there's a big portion of whatever culminates between Friday and Saturday, and this is the heightened energy of Mars and Uranus, something we've been building up to all week, that it kind of grabs the whole amount of energy and takes forward and is a big part of what we're going through, even going into Sunday. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. He's been shaking things up for a long time in a lot of different ways. We have unexpected happiness, unexpected blessings, unexpected, reach outs. And this would be through technology now. Some of us are going to be at that event. We're going to be in this moment. We're going to see that sporting event, and we'll see something live in action that it's going to capture everybody's attention. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe he made that play. Oh my God, it's so great. We see a hockey event, hopefully a good one, that again, unexpected, but it captures attention for the days that follow. We're leading up to an energy that goes into this weekend. This is when some of that energy goes the most exact, but whatever gets captured in the weekend's energy, it also is taking us into what's falling and creating a shape going into next week. We've had a huge momentum leading us all throughout the week, and then we get to the weekend, And this is exhilarating. This is exciting. This is groundbreaking. This is a breakthrough energy. And for very few select people, I'm super sorry to say this, this is combative and this is an actual break. Because some energies are going to be very, very high. And we can see some tensions and we can see some fighting and we can see something that became very, very explosive. That after it occurs, it is all anybody's talking about for the rest of the weekend and into next week. Right here. Happy Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. Now, the moon is now in Scorpio. We're in the process of rounding down the energy of eclipse season. It's not going to end this weekend per se. It actually ends on Monday morning, but the entire weekend is moving towards something. Now, our awareness, our sudden awareness, we've had something suddenly and abrupt happen. For a lot of us, it was somewhere between Friday and Saturday. For one or two people, it's going to be on Sunday. And the people that have it on Sunday, I like it a little bit better because we have this part here. So I'm going to put this in this first part of the morning and then I'm not going to mess with it anymore for the rest of the week. When we get into Sunday, between 4:45 a.m. and 7:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I've got this at 6:15. The moon is going to hit an opposition to Jupiter. As we progress throughout a lot of the rest of this month, the bigger emphasis of where a lot of the planets are going to be is going to be in Jupiter's signs. Neptune is in Pisces. Saturn is in Pisces. They've been there. Neptune's been there for over a decade. Saturn's been there since March. But earlier this week, Mercury went into Sag. As this month progresses, the Sun and Mars will go into Sagittarius. That eclipse that we had on October 28th was in a conjunction to Jupiter. That eclipse that we had on October 28th also included a Mars-Mercury conjunction opposite Jupiter. Some element of whatever we're dealing with on on Sunday, on November 12th, can hearken back to something that happened or an energy that awakened during the eclipse. It was an energy that awakened, but we had so much disruption. I said then, we're going into an energy where we're starting a new cycle, but I didn't feel like the new was going to come through in the eclipse. I felt like it was going to come afterwards. For some people, this can speak to that. Something that we've been trying to get going. Sorry, I've had a lot of noise outside my house today. It's so weird. Something we've been trying to get going for months, for days, for weeks. The moon's opposition to Jupiter can be reflective. We are winding down things from the eclipse season. We are moving towards the new moon in Mars. And some element of the sun's opposition to Jupiter can be the continuation of whatever happened between the exact Uranus-Mars opposition that happened the day before. If there was an injury, especially, this is the diagnostic. This is the doctor. This is the x-rays. This is the follow-up. This is the next part of that. And we're learning whatever happened this weekend and the effect it's going to have in the long run. How deep the disruption can be. Some of us are going to wake up on Sunday morning and we're going to feel very, very compelled to talk to somebody. If we're not necessarily waking up feeling compelled, we can feel like we have had nothing but these random synchronistic patterns that have said, do this, 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 and none of us wanted to do it. But something has ignited and we suddenly can't stop this vibration. We feel like we have to do something. And we're moving towards a very big pivotal disruption that is going to be a part of the fixed energy for us for years to come. This can be a hopeful energy. an unexpected, hopeful energy, an enlightenment, a lesson, a connection, a healing connection. Mercury is now in Jupiter's sign. There will be someone that has struggled with communication, struggled with making a decision, that will finally have their decision come to light this week. And that feels like it gets spoken through the moon's opposition to Jupiter right here. Now, Mars is still in its opposition to Uranus. So again, we can have some disruptive, unexpected events that can still happen on Sunday. And I'm not dismissing that. But I feel like if we have a disruptive, unexpected event on Sunday, it's not going to be nearly as an intense and eventful situation as what it could have been on Friday and Saturday. Friday felt more mental, Saturday felt more physical, Sunday feels more hopeful. Disruption is disruption no matter what. It's the way we process things. Some of us, we deal with disruption in a pivotal way, and we see it as a moment of clarity. Some of us look at every single mistake and every single mishap that happens as chaotic. That's kind of how we process things. Now, what is going to also be building throughout the day is we're going to be building into the new moon. The new moon does not perfect on Sunday. It actually perfects on Monday morning. But we're winding down the end of eclipse season and building into the new moon conjunct Saturn, opposite Uranus. We're in a momentum all of this week building into a new moon that doesn't even happen this week. It happens next week. Next week! Monday morning, but still next week! We're building towards something. We're going towards something. We're headed in a direction. All of this week is little bitty inklings of heading into a direction. A hopeful, boastful, new direction, new chapter, new beginning. And because of the Mars-Uranus energy that we're going to be dealing with, some of this new direction is going to be very unexpected. Now, some of us, we are expecting something, but it's like we're on a timetable that we don't know when the other shoe is going to, join the party, and that we don't know the other half of the, we don't know. That can be a part of the sudden disruption, that the other shoe finally drops. The other half of the equation happens. A sudden burst of energy comes through. And sitting still is not an option anymore. The closer we get to the sun's conjunction to Mars, the more we can feel certain parts of our wills change. A different desire coming to light. But whenever we add in that opposition to Uranus, some of us will feel a very unexpected energy pushing us to something new. Some of us will have something unexpected happen that immediately leads us to something new. And this is why I'm saying that I can feel for some people there can be injury. And I don't like that. But it might not just be injury. You could be going through the motions all week thinking everything's going to be fine. And what you find is like coming home on Saturday morning, or you just traveled to go see your boyfriend. And what do you walk into? They're in bed with somebody else. It doesn't matter who. But it wasn't a part of the plan. It was not expected. And it is going to be a part of the disruptive new beginning that we're going into. Some of us, we are in a momentum and we're building towards something and having a great time all week. And then we're going to get to parts of next weekend. And it doesn't matter that we've done all of our diligence. Like we've crossed all our I's, we dotted all our T's, and everything's prepared. Everything's cleaned and ready to go. And we're ready for the trip. And then system error. You can't plan for that. You can't plan for computers crashing. You can't plan for whenever the internet breaks. There's going to be, that's going to suck. If you think about it, like all these event places now, like all of their events are digital. So what if like the power is out and you can't like scan these tickets? Like you can't control that part. There will be some element of the disruption that you can't control. Are we all going to see disruption? In our individual lives, maybe not necessarily. In our surroundings, yes. Will we see it in big situations or little situations? Some of us are going to see it in both. But whatever comes through in that sudden equation is meant to be a part of where we go next in the Mars rebirth. For some of us, it is that sudden situation that leads us into what goes next in the Mars rebirth. It sets a stage. It's an unplanned, unexpected little extra element, but it definitely sets the stage. I like this week. I'm one of those people that I've been stagnant for quite some time, and I've been waiting for everything else to catch up. So I'm ready for the change. But some of you guys, you hear change, you're like, no, I don't want change. I don't like change. Babies, it's coming no matter what. You got to get ready for it. We work through the motions. We're getting towards something. We've been in this energy of rounding into something new for quite some time. We're finally bridging into the new. We're picking up some final momentum to bridge into the new, and that new is meant to come through somewhere in the last parts of this week and a big portion of next week. Because that new moon will not be in an exact conjunction to Mars. There's still going to be some space. And the actual Mars rebirth won't take place until the end of next week. So a big portion of whatever comes through later this week sets the stage for next week. The unexpected element is necessary. Some of us have an idea of what that unexpected element is going to be, but that's just because we're paying attention. Or we've been seeing it in our meditation. We've been seeing it in our dreams. We've been seeing it in the synchronistic patterns. We've been seeing it. It just hasn't happened yet. It's been hard to pinpoint when things were going to happen. But there's going to be something very sudden that comes through by the end of this week, going into the first of next week. For big sporting events, for big world scenarios, I don't really like it. For individuals in your personal lives, it's kind of fun. It's kind of exciting. The only signs that I'm actually really nervous for in this regard is Gemini rising and Sagittarius risings. I don't like this guy. I don't like this energy for you guys. Because some of it can have to do with health. A lot of it can have to do with health. You guys are the only ones I'm not thrilled. Because that sudden event can be a sudden surgery, an unexpected, unplanned surgery. So, don't like that. But aside from that, for just about any other sign, I like the energy as it's happening. I like what's going on. And I feel like it's leading us into some really great things. For Sagittarius risings, if it is something sudden like that, it can also take us into a solution. For Gemini risings, it's more along the lines of going to be dealing with somebody else and their health issue, more than likely. So you're probably going to be there for somebody else and helping them get through something. So those are the ones I'm not entirely thrilled for. Anyways, thank you for love. Thank you for the support. Thank you for sharing. Again, I will post some things. I'll do some tweets and stuff like that. And I'll post some things on the Facebook page in regards to the Spiritually Bougie Black Friday month, basically, of the $25 natal chart readings, and then the $50 double tier reading in case you want natal chart and one-on-one coaching session afterwards. I will post some things about that on Facebook. Share this with people that you think are going to benefit from a reading. Anyone that has expressed in the past that they want a natal chart reading, but they've never done one before, share this with them and let them make their own decisions. If you know that they're not going to make the decision because they're incredibly indecisive, then message me anyways and get them a gift certificate. We can work it all out. Anyways, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your trust. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.